We're joined live in the studios by Dr. Idris Ahmed. He is the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross. Dr. Ari, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know you've had your hands full and you've been pretty busy throughout the last few weeks. How bad is the situation? How can you summarize it right now?
Well, it's a pretty difficult situation for the country. And I maybe just want to summarize so that we can look at the general picture. One, we have the current situation of the floods, which is now has affected about 19 counties in the country. The second is we have a bit of a complex humanitarian situation from a number of other situations. The first is the caseload from the drought. So we have still a number of people, families that are in need of food assistance in different parts of the country. The second situation that we need to look at is that we have a number of disease outbreaks. Now, measles in about 8 counties. We have the risk of cholera. I think one reported confirmed case in Garissa, the refugee camps. Okay. So, pretty difficult situation. But having said that, I think one of the things that I want to emphasize is now as a country, we really have all hands on deck in terms of the response, the multi-agency teams coordinated by the government who are responding to the situation.
You talked about response. Of course, this is going to persist up until, well, next year. So when you're talking about conditions like this, week in, week out, which areas concern you the most, say, from even next week? So, as we speak now, the counties that are most affected are in the northern part of the country. So the counties of Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, Tana River, Marsabit, Samburu, Isiolo. But the spread is pretty much across the country. I think the northern parts, while in terms of areas affected, the numbers, the magnitude of the floods are the worst hit. We have a good spread across the country. However, what we have to remember is this particular emergency, floods, is an interaction of both the weather and the geography. So depending on where the rains are, the situation changes, and different areas have different effects in different times. So if you look at the weather forecast, as we move to the next 2 weeks, we'll have more concern in the Western Kenya. I think the forecast shows that we will be receiving more rain in the Lake Basin, in the South Rift region. We have a situation where a number of the rivers have been rising consistently over the last couple of weeks. River Tana now is at alarm stage. We are concerned about River Nyando, River Ndiwa. So generally speaking, as we receive more rains, the situation is likely to get worse.
You know, Dr. Ari, the areas, the counties that you mentioned are the same ones which were in drought not too long ago.
Exactly.
The irony is that they're all now literally underwater. What's it like getting there? Is it difficult? Like, look at the pictures that we're looking at. How difficult is it navigating through this?
So the sad part about the extreme weather events in this country is it has affected the same population, same communities. So moving from a cycle of drought to floods and also to disease outbreak. So you're right, it's the same counties that are affected. By the irony here is that for families who have had a bit of their livestock surviving during the drought, they're likely to lose them and are losing them because of the floods. So therein lies the irony. But from a humanitarian perspective, it means that the resilience of these communities is consistently being weakened. Every subsequent emergency makes it more difficult for them to withstand the effects of the following emergency. And so, the roads are pretty difficult right now. Our biggest challenge, in terms of the agencies responding, not just Kenya Red Cross, but including the government, is that, yes, a number of the roads are blocked. There are communities that have been cut away from supply lines, making their humanitarian situation more complex and more difficult. Difficult situation. But we have had, really, the coordinated approach has helped. So as we speak, we are working with the KDF to deliver supplies to a number of the areas that have been cut off yesterday and today. We hope to be reaching more communities the next couple of days. But pretty much, all in all, it's a difficult humanitarian operation.
Throughout the interview, SG, you've described a layering of emergencies or disasters, if you will. So it's the drought, it's the rains, it's floods, it's disease outbreak, it's displacement. When you look at all of that from a response perspective, how much will this all cost?
Well, I can't estimate the cost now, but it's going to be substantial. So there are two types of cost we need to look at. One is the cost in terms of impact. I think this is an area that is of concern. Just an estimate on the road, reconstruction, repairs itself is a huge cost to the country from a projection perspective. So the overall impact of the emergency itself is big. On previous emergencies, the serious disasters have an impact, including up to the overall economy at the end of the day. So one is that cost. But the overall cost of responding to the emergency is also going to be substantial. I think we are now working with the government in terms of resource mobilization. The government, as you could see on Friday, the Deputy President chaired a multi-agency coordinated approach where resource allocation, resource fundraising was being looked at. So yes, it is going to be substantial, but we're all working in a concerted manner so that we reduce the cost, we do not duplicate, and we benefit from the efficiencies of a coordinated approach.
Yeah. Dr. Ari, we'll have to leave it at that for now, but we'll definitely keep in touch with you and the Red Cross and wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Ahmed Idris, he's the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross, giving us an update on the destruction of the flooding, mostly in the north.